I'm Jay.
I'm Jonathan. I'm a game developer at Freelives.
I'm sound designer at Freelives.
We're here to talk about being multidisciplinary people.
Yeah.
So Jay's a sound designer, but he also does some like art. He sometimes does art direction. He makes some entire games by himself.
I wouldn't say entire games, but yeah, art, a lot of art on my own, animation stuff.
So you studied sound, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't study art and you just got into it?
I guess I just always used to draw weird stuff as a kid, like doodle on everything. Like BMXing, like just draw like guys ramping on BMXs.
Yeah.
I guess that's where it all started.
I guess with my being multidisciplinary, I started being an art intern. And there was a junior artist who was already working at this company. And I looked at her work and I just thought she was much better than me. And if either of us was going to get a job and I were the owner of this company, I would give it to her because her art was better. So I was like, oh, by the way, I know how to program. And so in my art internship, about half of it, more than half of my internship that was supposed to be an art one was actually spent doing programming. And at first they were just like, oh, they gave me really easy things because they assumed that I didn't actually know. But I sort of did a bit because I'd done some before anyway. And I got the job.
Nice.
I feel a little bit bad because like she'd worked really hard for it too. I mean, she's gone on to do really great work anyway, so I guess it's sort of a happy ending. But it was sort of my realizing that, hey, if I wanted to take an art path, the path would probably be longer and more difficult. If I sort of say that I can do programming and art, there seems to be a very large shortage of that.
Yeah.
So it made it easier for me to like climb the ladder faster or something.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's definitely a benefit of being multidisciplinary. Like where you, like say for instance, implementing sound in Unity and knowing how the tools work as well as making the sound, it kind of helps make the sounds quicker because you can get them into the game and test them immediately. And sometimes you might spend a lot of time on detail, like with art where you zoom in and you like zoom out, you're like, oh, I just did this tiny area.
Yeah.
So you can kind of figure out stuff like way quicker and you can build like a template like from the get-go.
I also find, so like, I'm not very good with audio myself. So when I get sounds from you, I often feel like, okay, I've put them in. Like technically they're playing, but I don't know if they're what you intended, if there were other effects or things that you wanted to do with them, if they should be interactive in some way. And that's just like my not knowing audio well enough.
It's like being the artist and putting the art in Unity. It's way better because you can see if things are wrong. Because also if I'm working on a video, it's like the same scenario over and over again, rather than like a game where it's like
things can change.
Yeah.
Don't know what the player is going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like maybe the multidisciplinary thing is more important in smaller teams, in indie teams.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been asked before, when I chat with students and people trying to get into video games, especially in South Africa, it's so difficult to give them a path because it's like when you don't have a lot of experience and you want to try and be multidisciplinary, you're probably going to be bad at everything.
Yeah.
Like it's probably better to be pretty good at one thing first and then branch out.
I think I kind of just do a lot of stuff as well because I get bored very quickly with stuff. Yeah. So I have to do a lot of stuff so that if I'm like, okay, this music's not working, I'll draw some pictures now.
Yeah, I think Jared does that too, and me to some extent as well, where, I mean, some of this was like my trying to advance my career faster in the way that I saw I could, but it was also sort of a being distracted really easily. Like, I'll be painting and I'll see someone doing an amazing sculpt. I'm like, oh man, that looks so good. I want to do that too. And then I take up sculpting. And then while I'm sculpting, before finishing that, I see someone doing like a game prototype or some effects. It's like, oh, that looks so cool. I want to try that as well. And then I end up having like a whole bunch of unfinished projects because before I finish it, I see something else that like is shiny and gets my attention. So I end up with all these unfinished things, but at the same time, I have lots of interests and I sort of slowly get better at all of them, I guess.
Yeah, there's like an upside to that and a downside because I know what you mean. Like I have so many unfinished projects, but the feeling of finishing something is way more fulfilling than like having 12 unfinished things.
Yeah.
You listen to it or look at it and you play it, whatever. And you're like, oh, this is so cool. It has so much potential. And then you just kind of like get depressed because you're like, well, it's so far gone now. I can't finish it. I got all these other things. But if you just like see one thing through, when you look back on it, it's like, cool, I finished something.
I like having something to be able to post online or show my friends or something. And work in progress is usually not it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that feeling. It's like, oh, what are you working on? Like a whole lot of different stuff. Yeah. I can't really pinpoint one thing.
Yeah, or I'm working on a prototype and I've done enough work to show a GIF. And so I show them that and they're like, oh yeah, like when do I get to play this? And I know that like the game is just nowhere close to being something that I feel comfortable letting them play. Sort of the art side of me gets like super fulfilled making something that was just pretty enough in those like 5 seconds.
Yeah. I wonder if that's a problem with having lots of skills, is if one thing lacks, you can't see the whole thing as good because you know one thing's not as good as the other.
That's sort of related to something that I actually have found being a problem being sort of the multidisciplinary type person, where, or at least easily distracted, I guess, is you might be practicing one thing and you find that like you hit a wall. You're practicing a skill and you get to a point where it's like it's actually really difficult. And then I end up getting distracted by something else. And I'm not sure if I'm practicing that other thing because it's interesting, like, oh yeah, I'm really interested in sound now, or if it's actually a way for me to avoid learning the thing that was actually really difficult. I think at the end of the day, like being a multidisciplinary person is great for being able to explore things yourself, not having to go through someone else. Like you can own things.
So you got to start somewhere. I know that feeling of something being incredibly daunting, like, oh, how do you make games? There's so much to learn. But if you just start with something super basic. Yeah, I'd rather work in a team of like people who have a lot of skills, but have like one skill that's very good.
I think having multiple skills, but having one really, like a main one, is really important. When I think about the people I want to work with, if all of them were multidisciplinary, I would feel less as if I could learn from them. I can ask Jay questions about audio, and I know that he's like miles better at that than I am. So in terms of like my rounding out my skills, it's a great way for me to learn.
Yeah.
And I assume that if other people wanted to learn about art or tech art or effects or something, that I would have things that I can teach them. If we were all sort of average people, then I don't think it would work very well.
That wouldn't. Because then there'd just be like too many cooks in every kitchen.
Right.
Like every aspect of the project, everyone's like batting heads, and if you're like pretty good at something, but you have a good knowledge of everything else, or like a good understanding, like Team Laserbeam, for instance, like we're all pretty good at a lot of stuff. Like we can all do each other's job, kind of, except Richard's. But yeah, like it's super helpful when you need eyes on something.
I like being able to leave something in someone else's hands. So I mean, if it's an art thing and the artist doesn't use the game engine as an example, then like they can do the art, but it's almost like I have to support them through the whole thing, get the art in, and realize that there are changes that need to be made, and then like tell them about it, as opposed to like they're just putting it in and seeing, hey, it already doesn't work.
Yeah, that's that thing of knowing a bit about everything. That really, that's where it super comes in handy.
So being multidisciplinary is about like finding a lot of other things that interest you, but it's probably easiest to find ones that are related to your main skill. So in my case, it'd be like, all right, you like making art. Find ways to put that in the game engine. Find ways to do the animations, all of that in your game engine or whatever. These are all related skills. Maybe start out there, and then as more things interest you, maybe you round out your skills that way. But it definitely helps to start with the thing that you are passionate about first.
Yeah, focusing in on the thing you're most passionate about is important. And when you feel confident with that, then you can start to see the things on the outskirts, I guess.
Being multidisciplinary is useful for small teams because you don't have enough manpower to be like specialists at each thing. Yeah. And ideally, everyone should be able to do everything, just maybe not to the same degree.
So it's good to know also what everyone is doing, understand like their process a little bit.
You also like prevent miscommunication and a lot of other like bottlenecks that might happen otherwise.
I would definitely choose multidisciplinary.
I'm actually not sure which I would choose. Like if I was a specialist in something, it would be very satisfying to have a lot more finished work or work that I can put up in some art portfolio or something somewhere. That's and just be like, look, I'm one of the best in the world at this very specific thing.
Yeah.
And I think that would give me satisfaction, but I just know that throughout my career, I've tried to be a specialist at things, and it isn't me. Like I lose interest so
Yeah,
quickly.
that's the thing. I think it's down to personality. So what would you be, Jonathan? Would you be a master of some or a master of one?
I can't be a master of one because I've tried that and I just keep getting distracted.
It'd be good to hear from other people how they try and not get distracted when they are multidisciplinary people, actually.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty good question to ask, because I'll be doing audio and be like, oh, I don't want to do audio, I want to do art. Like I'll see someone designing something, like, no, I don't want to do art, audio, I'd rather like design stuff now.
If someone knows how to do that, please let me know.
Yeah, same. That's our talk on being multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's help, the main thing. Fucking excellent. Excellent closer right there.